2009 is wrapping up, and as a talk show host, I have to say I haven't failed to notice, nay, enjoy, the amount of ridiculous scandals this past year, especially in politics. Now, before I head out to the Appalachian Trail for Christmas break, I want to talk about the year in scandal with media commentator Sam Seder, Laurie Kilmartin, comedian, and Gabriel Snyder, editor-in-chief of Gawker.com. Well, let's start with Tiger for a second. Do you think that that was the scandal of 2009?
Well, that was pretty big. I mean, here's a guy who's made $1 billion as a shill for corporate America. I mean, in some ways, it does sort of pull back a veneer about what we've been sold.
And there were hints, I think, for all over the place. People sort of knew a lot more than they let on.
Not me.
No. But you mentioned corporate America. They must have known stuff, but of course they're not going to.
Well, you're talking about the accounting group for Enron. I mean, they got their own. They have their own skeletons in their closet.
Exactly.
But I don't see the scandal here. I mean,
you don't see it.
Who was looking up to Tiger Woods as the role model? He was a robot who plays golf better than anyone else.
I mean, little half-black Asian kids were looking up to him as a role model.
Well,
and people who wanted to play golf. Not me, or you, maybe.
Well, I mean, he was the sort of the pinnacle of, I mean, he was so good, and he may still very well be, at golf. It's rare you see anybody in any sport or endeavor that is that much better than everyone else.
Absolutely. He was just brilliant. But the most fun scandal for me this year was Governor Sanford. People hated it because he said his mistress was his soulmate. Let's listen to his confession. I love this.
It began very innocently, as I suspect many of these things do, but here recently, over this last year, it developed into something much more than that. I would also apologize to my staff, because as much as I did talk about going the Appalachian Trail, and that was one of the original scenarios that I'd thrown out to Mary Neal, that didn't want to where I ended up.
So he was going to the Appalachian Trail, but it turns out he was just chasing Argentinian tail. Right. Now, was this the funniest scandal because... or the most talked about sex scandal because of the soulmate business, or because he was such a big, loud Christian, and, you know, the hypocrisy factor, or what do you think made that so wonderful a scandal?
I think it's all those things. I mean, the guy lied about where he was. I mean, he's responsible for a state. Right. And he's lying like I'm going out to get a pack of cigarettes and stealing away somewhere. I mean, the most scandalous part of that scandal to me is that here's a guy who's going to turn down the stimulus money because he didn't want to waste the taxpayers' money and was willing to jeopardize the jobs of thousands of teachers and school kids getting their lunches. And he's using taxpayer money to go to see his mistress.
So it's hypocrisy, basically.
Slightly hypocritical, yeah.
It was therapeutic because Jenny Sanford didn't put up with it.
Yes.
Like, that was the thing that made it for me. Like, she said no, she's filing for divorce, and that's like the next evolution of political wife, is that you don't take it, you file for divorce. And next after that, I think, should be the revenge affair.
Yeah.
Like, how cool would it be if Tiger Woods' 15th mistress was Jenny Sanford?
Oh, that would be so great.
That would be awesome.
But I mean, you're right. Like, Mrs. Edwards is still with him, probably torturing him. I would.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Silda Spitzer.
Silda Spitzer is still there. So Jenny she really went for it. It was great. Ensign is another politician who cheated, but he got to keep his position. Okay. Now, some of them did and some of them didn't. I have the list here. Sanford stayed. Ensign stayed. Spitzer, bye. Edwards, out. Vitter, these are earlier ones last year maybe. Vitter gone. Craig, Larry Craig, tap.
Vitter's still there.
He is?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, he's not gone.
No, he's not gone.
Why is he still there? He was seeing hookers.
Well, because he was seeing hookers when he was a congressman, but now he's a senator. So
talk about getting kicked upstairs. And of course, Bill Clinton, the poster child, kept his job. Now, what do you think makes them stay and then the others get kicked out? What happens there?
the only reason that these guys leave is if they quit. Remember Larry Craig, he tried to quit. Then he said, oh, no, I want to keep my job.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, you already quit. You can't have it back. But look at Spitzer. He's come back. He's talking about running again.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to find any of these guys who actually have paid a price for any of these scandals. We're in a new age.
You agree with that, Sam?
I mean, I think there's some truth to that, but frankly, I don't think there necessarily should be a price. I mean, it's one thing to engage in behavior that's illegal. But I mean, if you have an affair, you have an affair. I don't particularly care unless you're out there like a guy like Ensign or Vitter or Sanford saying, you know, talking about being a righteously moral person.
Well, there's hypocrisy and then there's lying with perjury, which is where they get them a lot of times, right?
Right, and well, it's also, apparently, it's still illegal to go see a prostitute.
It seems like the guys that pay the price are the ones
that's
that...
right. But not in Nevada. They should go to Nevada.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, the ones that pay the price are the ones that cross gender lines and not cheat on their wife with another woman, but with
a man?
A man, yeah.
Well, that's the Republican Party gets very uptight about something like that, right? That's the deal breaker over there.
Right. Well, they had a much bigger problem with Larry Craig than they did, let's say, Vitter or Sanford or whatnot. I mean, the idea that
Foley
he was
too.
And Foley, they were genuine pariahs because they were having extramarital affairs that dealt with other men as opposed to women.
Well, I think that the only time the country gives a damn about any of that is when these same politicians vote against gay rights in some way. Yeah. Then they really deserve the wrath of the media when they do that. And that's what happened. Let's see the movie Outrage. Okay, aside from scandal, healthcare reform is also happening in D.C. One Republican senator said this prior to an important vote. Watch.
What the American people ought to pray is that somebody can't make the vote tonight. That's what they ought to pray.
Now, his office is saying that he wasn't wishing anybody harm. But if you say, I hope someone doesn't show up, maybe Robert Byrd won't make it. I mean, it's a little evil, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nasty, nasty behavior, in my opinion.
I have to say, I like the GOP's like Old Testament take on Christianity. Like, if I can actually go to church and ask Jesus to kill people, I will return to church. Like, there's been a boycott for me for a while, but I have a long list.
Do you think that politics was nastier this year? Remember Joe Wilson? You lie. He started the whole thing. Was it nastier than previous years?
Yeah, I think, you know, you can go back and you can see a trend that when a Democrat wins the presidency, the right wing becomes just foaming at the mouth.
Vicious.
I mean, there's a reason why the Department of Homeland Security came out with that report and saying, look for a rise in right-wing violence, because that's what happens. And, you know, I'm not suggesting that every conservative or every Republican is a racist, but they did have a strategy for 30 years called the Southern Strategy that was built around winning elections based upon some vague notion of racism.
Exactly.
And so I think this is driving them crazy.
Exactly. Well, Obama tries to be civil, though. He really does try. He's a gentleman. I've always thought of him as a gentleman. Even when they turned on him for a couple of things he said to Mrs. Clinton during the primary, when he said, you're not likable enough, I thought that he was actually being nice there. I didn't think that I did. You know, maybe he should just give it up and turn Rahm Emanuel on them. Just sick Rahm Emanuel on these Republicans. I think he should just go for it now.
There's a lot of people who are waiting for him to do that with health care, and it hasn't happened.
Well, he has issues there. But anyway, thanks, you guys. Thanks very much, everyone. More when we come back. My conversation with Golden Globe nominee, Monique. See the movie? She's good. Not yet. Precious.
Monique?